Welcome to Chris Parkin Shooting Sports. We've got a scope review today. This is the Element Optics Helix Gen 2, 6 to 24 by 50. So 6 to 24 times magnification, 50mm objective lens, and it's a 30mm body tube. Reticle is in the first focal plane, which means as you zoom in and out, the reticle appears to get bigger and smaller, but it remains in absolute perfect correlation with the target and of course your click value. Overall length is 356mm, which is 14 inches. Overall weight is 830 grams, which is a modest 29 ounces. The exit pupil goes from 8.3 to 2.1mm throughout the magnification range, and eye relief varies only between 3.4 to 4 inches. Field of view is 20.1 to 5 feet at 100 yards from low to high magnification. The reticle is the APR-1C, you can see that clearly on screen, and it's got multiple aim over marks and it's incorporated into the minutes of angle structure, so if you make dialed corrections on either elevation or windage, it correlates perfectly with the adjustments you can either aim off with on the reticle or, see bullet splash and make exact compensations with your turrets. Click value is quarter MOA, and there are 20 minutes of angle per complete revolution. The turret has a zero stop as well, so you can always go back to zero, and in terms of setup, you just zero it as you would normally zero a scope, correcting elevation and windage, and then you just lift the top off and it turns back, puts it back to mark zero. If you look at the turret underneath here, you've got Allen keys supplied to do the zero stop setup. Simple, straightforward, it's got nice steel components, it's got long-term durability. Overall elevation travel is 65 minutes of angle, and it's got 40 minutes of angle on the windage. The windage is set up in exactly the same way, and it's marked left and right of centre with clear quarter MOA click values, and that's 10 MOA left and 10 MOA right. Again, just release the knurled dial here and you can set that back to mark zero position once you've set up your rifle. Lastly, it's parallax adjustable, and parallax goes all the way from 10 yards out to infinity, so that means it's suitable for air rifles, rimfires and centerfires. It's got 3.7 to 4 inches of eye relief, so you can have no problem setting it up on most guns, and of course that minimum 10 yard parallax distance means you can use full magnification at all ranges without having a problem with a fuzzy reticle. Comes supplied with rubber lens caps, as you can see here. I'll just pop those off for the second and just move the gun out of the way, and let's have a look and see what's in the box. Inside we've got packaging. There's a really good instruction manual. Element Optics are well known for good instruction manuals, and it's got the full technical specification list here to tell you exactly all the factors and features of it. This scope is available in second focal plane if you want, and it's also available first focal plane in milliradians if that's your preferred adjustment value. The scope covers all the setup procedures to get it set up, eye relief, levelling the reticle, and more importantly, it covers setup of things like the turrets too, to make sure you know how to take the caps off, how to set them, how to make sure you've got your zero stop in position. There's a description of the reticle dimensions inside, which of course is first focal plane, so it correlates perfectly, and it explains the minutes of angle, and it also explains the angular adjustments within the scope and how those work to set up your rifle and shooting at distance. Also in the box we've got an Element Optics sticker. Just move that packaging there, move the label, move the silica gel thing. We've also got flip up turret caps, so you can pop these on, and these are generally what I would normally use. Pop those on like that at the front and the rear, and those will just lift up out the way for when you want to use the scope. The reason I've not got those on is because I want to show you at the back of the rifle we've got the fast focus eyepiece here to make sure you've got perfect reticle focus to compensate for the natural depth to difference of your eye. There's an Element Optics cleaning cloth to keep your lenses clear, and there's also the 3-inch sunshade that screws on the front here, and that gives you a little bit of protection from the sun coming in at awkward angles, and that's especially useful this time of year when you've got very low sun as well coming in at an awkward angle. You get 2 Allen keys to help you set up the rifle scope, and I'm going to take those out now and show you what they will do, because I will need the larger one to show you the throw lever. And the throw lever fits on the zoom collar here and allows you slightly faster, easier control, especially in cold weather with gloves on, to make fast magnification changes between 6 to 12 times. And that screws in there, and you've then got immediate control like that very quickly. It's interesting to note, I was using a trigger cam on the rifle in the video, and you'll see me changing magnification, and the reticle stays in perfectly sharp focus. Now, the trigger cam is actually manually focused, so it's really only ever set up perfectly for one magnification, because the eye relief does change on most rifle scopes ever so slightly as magnification changes, but it just goes to show how non-critical that is on the Element scope, because when I was changing magnification, the reticle is staying in sharp focus on the trigger cam. Now remember, the trigger cam, as I said, is manually focused. The human eye focuses automatically, so you would never notice that, and once you've set it up for your eye, it's perfect. So it's just another feature that goes to show how the eye box, so to speak, isn't moving very much when you change your magnification, and that does lead to a very versatile, forgiving scope to make sure it's easy to shoot from multiple different positions. Other accessories include an aperture reduction ring, so if we just take that sunshade off there now, this will screw in its position. Now, for those of you who are photographically knowledgeable, reducing the aperture will reduce brightness ever so slightly, but does increase the depth of field or the focal range on a scope, so it makes it a little bit more forgiving. Although with it being a parallax adjustable scope anyway, it's easy enough to quickly snap into focus as you need, but that aperture in there will suit certain lighting scenarios and certain competition scenarios where you do want that greater depth of field, especially if you're not changing light conditions or magnification rapidly. The other thing in the packet is what I call the ghost ring. Now, you'll have noticed that the windage turret is actually under a cap like that, but the ghost ring, if you want it to, can be used instead of the cap, and that will go over there to cover those threads, so you can use it as an exposed turret scope if that's what suits your needs. That just screws on over there and will nip into position like that. So there you go with the rifle scope. You can see in the video I'm shooting at multiple distances. I'm using it on a 2-2 rimfire just because I love shooting 2-2 rimfire, and it gives me the most accessibility to changing elevation values quickly. I zeroed the rifle at 50 metres, but I was shooting out as far as 150 metres, and of course the click values are nice, they're tactile and they're accurate, so I was able to repeatedly dial backwards and forwards for shooting different targets at different ranges. And of course that is the ideal use for a scope like this, with a bit more magnification, allows you to take on those smaller targets with a bit more precision. Recommended retail price on this scope is £399.59, and it was sent to me by Sportsman Gun Centre, so thank you very much for Sportsman for the loan. I've really enjoyed using it. I love shooting 2-2 rimfire at multiple distances, and as the winter comes in I'm going to be using this quite a lot. I've already reviewed this scope before actually in the milliradians version, also first focal plane. The only real difference between minutes of angle like this one and milliradians is down to your preference and what you're most used to. I'm more used to milliradians myself, but I can quite happily convert to minutes of angle when I need it, and the click value is actually technically slightly more precise in minutes of angle because a 1/4 MOA is slightly smaller than 10mm at 100 metres. Getting down to using the scope, what's my feedback? Well, it was easy to set up, no problems with eye relief or anything like that. 30mm tube makes it very easy to find rings for, and the 50mm front end means it doesn't need to be too high above the gun itself. The magnification control is very fast, it's easy to operate and it's smooth. It reaches an exact stop at either end of its travel, so you don't feel as if you're straining anything, and there's no perception of any internal motion at all. It's all silent, all smooth. Reticle focus with the fast focus eyepiece was precise, and I didn't find any requirement to change that throughout usage of the rifle once it was set up for my eye. The only time I did change it was if I was shooting with glasses on or glasses off, and of course don't forget the trigger cam is a slight compromise on optical quality. It's not as good as what you see with your own eye, and I have to say the reticle and the picture in this scope was crisp and precise, and I enjoyed shooting it a massive amount. I'm going to carry on shooting it for the next couple of days at least. It's worth noting on the CZ457 Ergo we put the adjustable cheek piece on here as well, and that has given me superb position and alignment on the optic. But that didn't detract from the fact the optic is itself very versatile, easy to use, and even from different shooting positions, from prone, sitting shooting, from sticks, anything like that, you got a nice versatile eye box which didn't feel critical at all to get within the perfect centre of the exit pupil without vignettes. Image quality in daylight has been more than acceptable, and in poorer light conditions it's faded out gradually without any specific negative steps in performance. So again, it's been straightforward to use, and I think it offers great value for money at its price point with relevant features and not too much functionality you're never going to use. Standard of finish is perfect with very smooth anodizing. It doesn't pick up the skin dust from your fingers or anything like that, and I have to say it's a great scope and I've very much enjoyed using it. Right, well I hope you've enjoyed watching that review of the Element Helix Gen 2 6-24x50. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment and click the notification bell to keep track of my regular uploads. And last but not least, don't forget to book your tickets for the big opening of the next new year, the 2026 British Shooting Show at the NEC from the 13th to the 15th of February. Thank you for watching, bye for now.